Something that HPB, I think one interesting characteristic is that she was always relating to people, relating to them from that point where one is not or should not be too bothered by what happens around. Not that she wasn't externally, as those who know HPB's life. Well, she was a strange case because of her occult training. But some people say even when she was in the fit of anger or a reaction, if you would ask her anything about theosophy, instantaneously she would be calm, as if nothing happened, and she would be talking, perfectly calm. And then she would relate to people, not with this attitude that we cherish so much in our culture. We are always trying not to hurt people's egos, and we tend to be flattery and to make people feel well. And maybe that's okay, but what we are actually doing is preserving the aspect of ourselves which is keeping us in a prison. Not that we should be unkind to each other, but that aspect that is constantly defensive is the aspect that, as I said, keep us in a prison. So she would never take care of that aspect of a person, and she would just, say what she had to say without thinking, or will this person be hurt or not, as long as, what she said was true. So it is interesting to see how to live with the ideals that many traditions present is not very easy, especially when we live in a society where we are expected to do things, to relate to things. I remember Radha Burnier, the international president of the Theosophical Society, she said once that she was in a meeting, and then when the lectures were over, she went and sat by herself on a bench, watching nature. They were in a very nice place, and somebody came and said, "What's wrong with you? Are you sad that you are here by yourself, or you are not talking to people?" So we have these ideas that we should be constantly in activity, constantly relating, and there is no room for just silence, contemplation. We are going to explore the spiritual path. Many of these things we will actually face these difficulties, and each person chooses how to face them and how to address the problem. Some people, they just don't care if others think that he or she is introvert or whatever they think. Some other people externally, they are very relate to everybody, but internally they have the ability to stay more quiet. And there are different approaches, but basically trying to, I remember Jiddu Krishnamurti saying that if we are well adapted to a society that is spiritually sick, then that means that we are sick. So, all these things are just to make us think. We cannot take any of these things to go to an extreme. But, it's to bring some thought on things that we take for granted or that we may not pause to examine. So today we are going to start with a subject that is very central to theosophy in many aspects. And it was brought to the memory or brought again to the memory of the Western culture by Blavatsky. The idea of what she called Mahatmas, or Masters of the Wisdom, or Adepts. In the East, there was always this concept of, in Hinduism, for example, the rishis. these enlightened people, heroes, not necessarily gods, but saints in the sense of having attained absolute wisdom, or absolute from a human point of view. These rishis would stay in touch with humanity, although they may have died many years ago. They stay in touch with humanity, and sometimes they bring teachings. A yogi or a teacher would say, this rishi came to me either in a dream, or some would say he just materialized and gave me some teachings. In Tibetan Buddhism, they also have this idea of either bodhisattvas or some great teachers that also they would say these teachings were given to me by Padmasambhava or whoever was a great teacher in the past, and that person either came in a dream or materialized there. Some teachings are said to have been given by the Buddha, not the physical Buddha, but the inner Buddha. The Buddha had died, and yet the Buddha was still giving teachings on the inner plane. So all this is part of the tradition in the East, but not so much in the West. We have the idea that if you are a Christian, that Jesus is somewhere up there, that you can pray to him. There is a sense of relationship, but for the most part, people who say Jesus came and they would be looked at as people who are not necessarily in all their senses. Of course,
Mary seems to...
Yeah, Mary, I was going to mention, Mary seems to communicate more with people. There are many, or a number of people that say that Mary came. Of course, it is always difficult with the knowledge of theosophy, we know that there are more planes or dimensions, that there are entities on the inner dimensions, and that if the person has a certain sensitivity, entities can appear to that person. Now, these entities may be Mother Mary or may not be at all and just impersonate. So it's a very complex subject. But the main idea is not so much that they can appear to a person, but the idea that they stay, these rishis, these bodhisattvas, they stay in touch with humanity and keep an eye on humanity to help with spiritual teachings. So many enlightened beings in India, or gurus, when they are about to die and the disciples say, we are not going to have you with us anymore, many of them say, the body is just, a shadow of what we really are, and I'm always there. I will, or this consciousness will be always there. And a person who studies these teachings may connect with that consciousness, even without noticing it, and just receive a deeper understanding, because there is a place where we are all one. So what Madame Blavatsky said is or brought that idea to the West, and she said there are enlightened beings who stay in touch with humanity, and these are what Madame Blavatsky called masters. Now, the existence of these enlightened beings is a natural result of the idea of evolution. In a philosophy, as theosophy, that postulates a process of evolution within the illusory planes, Atman or the real never evolves because it's perfect in itself, spontaneously perfect. But within the illusory planes, there is a growth in the ability to express the real. That's more or less the idea of evolution. So this divine spark is in all of us, and little by little the person that is caught in the illusion of being the body with experience, with more and more insight into the nature of things, this person begins to realize, I'm not the body. The body is just a fragment of myself. And neither am I the emotions or the mind. And eventually that person discovers his or her true identity, which is one with the all. Now, when that happens, there is no purpose to have a body anymore. The idea being that, in Hinduism, they say, why does the divine spark take a body? Because of the illusion, there is a thirst for physical experience. We have this thirst to experience the world through a physical body. But when the person realizes that he or she or it is far beyond the physical, then that thirst disappears. Therefore, the divine spark is not compelled to incarnate anymore. When that happens, the divine spark is can let go of all the lower vehicles and stays in its own nature. Sometimes it's called in Hinduism Swarupa, its own true nature, without any body. Let's say in the state of, this is what in Buddhism they call nirvana. It's the cessation, the annihilation of all the lower vehicles of consciousness, or let's say the vehicles of consciousness, and only consciousness remains there. Of course, in the theosophical view, it is said that consciousness cannot be ever without a vehicle of consciousness, but at this level that we are talking, there is no separation between the two. Now, the problem is that when this divine spark lets go of all the lower vehicles, it loses the ability to communicate with the lower planes. It's just like when a person dies, that person is still alive on the astral plane, but it loses the ability to communicate physically with us. It can communicate astrally because we also have an astral body, but physically the vehicle for the physical communication is not there, and therefore to our perception that person disappeared. So the same with the divine spark. Although the divine spark is everywhere, to our perception that divine spark is not available anymore unless we can raise our consciousness to that very high level which only enlightened beings are aware of.